Hello and welcome to Talking Tullahoma, a weekly podcast recapping the week's news, talking to the news makers, and looking ahead to upcoming events. I'm Kelly Lapchinsky, and today I'm talking to the founder of a new family-focused nonprofit enrichment center for students K through 12. After the interview, stay tuned to hear about events that are on tap in the weeks ahead. But first, here's a look back at the week ending Friday, August 14th. Now, first up, within hours of the podcast released last week, final ballots were cast and votes were tallied in the municipal election, and 3 winners were announced in the alderman race. In order of vote count, they were Mike Dent, Donna Bradford, and Daniel Berry, who edged out a re-election bid by incumbent Bobby Wilson by just 37 votes. Now, if you watched our live coverage as the polls closed, you already know that those results aren't final until they are certified by the Election Commission on the 20th. Now, once confirmed, the new aldermen are expected to be sworn in and seated on the dais for the last meeting of August, the 4th Monday of the month, August 24th. Meanwhile, on this Monday, August 10th, the City Board held the final meeting of its current configuration, and one of their last acts was a unanimous vote to require that study sessions be filmed and televised, just like regular meetings are. Now, those regular meetings occur on the 2nd and 4th Monday of each month and are televised live on LightTube Channel 6 and simulcast to YouTube. Another board that will be changing just a bit is the Tullahoma School Board. On Tuesday, Rosie Graham likely sat in her last Board of Education meeting after choosing not to seek re-election. This race was finished in the May primary when 4 candidates emerged to fill 4 seats, but only 3 of the 4 are returning board members. Andy Witt, Gigi Robison, and Teresa Lawson will continue to serve on the school board, but the seat that Rosie Graham left vacant was won by retired educator Sherry Cleveland. She will be installed for her first meeting at 5 o'clock on September 8th. And in-person registration began this week for pageants at the Coffee County Fair. Now, pageants do return to the fairgrounds this year, but in a new venue, the Midway Entertainment and Agriculture Pavilion. But registration can only be done in person at the Starnes exhibit building. Little Miss, Junior Miss, Miss Teen, and Fairest of the Fair will be judged on Saturday, September 5th. The baby and toddler shows will follow on the 6th. Registration fees range from $10 to $25, cash or check. There's no online entry, no phone entry, and no late entry. So if you have not already registered and you want your child to participate, head to the Starnes building between 4 and 8 o'clock on Friday the 14th or between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Saturday the 15th. I'll be right back.
Some connections are better than others, like connecting with nature or reconnecting with an old friend, connecting with the ball, and connecting with a cause. At LightTube, our goal is to help you stay connected, not only with lightning-fast internet and local support, but by advocating for those better connections. Stay connected to the people in your life. Sign up for LightTube today.
Welcome back. This week on the podcast, I am introducing a new business or school or ministry. It's hard to find just one word that encompasses the science, engineering, and arts enrichment opportunities that the Gathering Place provides, both during school hours for homeschoolers and after school for traditional students. That's why I invited founder Shauna Yancey and her son Blake to the studio to tell us more.
Well, it is a community enrichment center and family ministry. So enrichment because it goes beyond the academic subjects. We call them the core 4 in homeschooling, math, language arts, history, and science. And it dives deeper into science and engineering and robotics. Some of the science is blended with art and farming because we do have a farm in Belvedere. So we have homesteading classes. We teach organic gardening. And then Blake, he has spent some time on some robotics and engineering and rocketry competition teams, and so we'll be bringing that to the center as well.
So I actually saw you just started, you just had your first meetup and team gathering to create teams for competitions. Is that correct? Is that something
Yes.
you're involved in?
Yes, we had the meeting last Thursday where we got some people who were interested in joining the team together and kind of like formed who it was going to be, and then we're actually having our first like official meeting tonight.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so that is the night that we are recording, which is of course going to be a couple days later by the time this actually comes out. So this will have happened. If somebody's still interested, though, will there still be spaces available on that team?
Yes.
So when you say you're recruiting for new teams for this rocketry competition, what is that, and how many more teams are you looking for?
So we have two different teams for high school, middle school. One of them is rocket team, which is mostly geared toward high schools because it's a little more complicated, where we have to build a rocket and get it to go to a certain height, a very specific certain height, and then we get points taken off based on higher or lower. And there's a few other specific rules and details about that, but it's a very like scientifically based competition. So you have to be very precise when you're building and launching. And then the other one is the Robot Drone League. This one is more for like robotics, and we have some middle schoolers on this one too. So we have a robot and a drone that fly and drive at the same time on this field, basically, where we have to do different like objectives, different like tasks. And we get points based off of that, and then there's like a lot of stuff that goes with the competition, but that's kind of just the basics of it.
So is this operating or programming or both?
So the first minute is the robot is going autonomously, so it's driving based off of a code, and so is the drone. And then for the rest of the time, the other 9 minutes, you're flying and piloting it with a remote.
Oh, wow. So a lot of different skills, very
Yes.
interesting.
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, let's tell people who you are and how they contact you. First of all, what is the name of this new enrichment center?
Okay, it's called The Gathering Place, and we do have a website, thegatheringplacetn.org. We are also on Facebook, just The Gathering Place in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And so they can contact us either way. My email address is on there, my phone number is on there, so lots of ways to get in touch with us. We're happy to have a conversation with anybody who is interested in learning more.
And so what inspired you to start this?
Well, that's a very long story. I would say I think of it more as a calling, I guess. I think that over the years, I started out in my career doing ministry, doing social work. I have a degree. Actually have a master's degree in social work and a concentration in nonprofit management. So I think way back before I had children, I had some idea that one day I would open a nonprofit. I just didn't have any idea what type it would be. I spent some time running a college ministry, teaching life skills to kids coming out of state's custody. And then I had my own children, stayed home, stopped working outside the home, and started homeschooling when Blake was 5. And from there, we got involved in so many wonderful activities in Murfreesboro. We went to a science center, a nature program. We got involved in the local theater program where I volunteered, and then eventually became in charge of costuming and the makeup artistry and choreography.
Now, would that be the TEACH program here in Tullahoma?
It was Perform Murfreesboro. It was part of the Parks and Rec department of Murfreesboro, and it's called Perform Murfreesboro. They still have a very active theater program. So we did that a few years. Blake was in several of the plays there. And then from there, we ended up getting involved in an adventure-based program called New Frontiers that's out in Dowtown. And that was mostly a homeschool program. And then from there, we started going to the Robotics and Engineering Center in Murfreesboro, and that's where we gained all of the knowledge about robotics and engineering and aerospace, and learned how to fly drones and participate in competition teams. And I think from all of that, we moved here.
That was my next question, because you mentioned Belvedere, you've mentioned a lot of Murfreesboro. What would bring this here? You moved here.
Right.
Okay.
So we started seeing all the development in Murfreesboro. I grew up in Murfreesboro. It was a small town. Everyone knew everyone. It was very family oriented, community oriented. and it started becoming less so. And as my kids are getting older, I just think, where do I want us all to end up one day? Where do I want the grandchildren? Where do we want to have Sunday dinners?
Right.
I didn't want to have it in Murfreesboro. So we looked for a place that reminded me of what Murfreesboro was like. And Tullahoma, Winchester are very much how Murfreesboro was about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we found some land, started overbuilding our farm, and we just knew that eventually we were going to dive in and do something in the community.
Okay. So you mentioned that you have this degree and that you knew that someday that you were going to do a nonprofit. So of course that means this is a nonprofit, which means you're going to need funding, fundraisers, sponsors. Have you got any of those in line yet?
We have gotten our first lead on a sponsor, so I'm supposed to contact them this week. I'm very excited about our first sponsorship. We have some ideas about a mustard seed program that we're going to be launching, where people can invest and plant their mustard seeds of faith into the program. And just any companies out there that want to sponsor the arts, want to sponsor, they want their name attached to the robotics teams, the drone team. We're always looking for sponsors. They'll be put on our t-shirts, on our banners. They'll be placed on the website. But we definitely are going to need sponsorships and donors, and so just really anybody who says, well, I don't have a student K through 12. I have a grandchild K through 12, send them on. Or I don't have anyone who lives in this area, but I believe in what you're doing and I want to be a part of it. We're looking for guest speakers. We're looking for sponsors.
And I imagine there's an enrollment fee as well for the students who want to participate. So there may even be a sponsor per student. You may have someone who's really interested in participating whose parents might not be able to send them to that, but they could be sponsored individually.
Absolutely. We are definitely wanting sponsors for individual classes, individual students. I've actually already had a couple of people ask me if we have scholarships available, and I said not yet, but we will, because we want to make our fees as low as possible. So right now where they're set is where they have to be.
Right.
But hopefully in the future we'll be able to lower fees. We'll be able to offer special opportunities like that.
All right, wonderful. Now I'm going to go back to Blake really quickly, because you mentioned that you started homeschooling when he was, did you say 5 or 5th grade?
5. Kindergarten.
Okay, kindergarten. How old are you now?
I'm 17 now.
17. Now, in these robotic teams that you were just talking about, are you on the teaching side of it? Are you in the participating side of it? Have you done? You sounds like you've done it for quite a while.
Yeah. So actually, this is my last year to compete on most of these teams because I'm a senior this year.
Okay.
So I'll be more of a team captain role, but I'll still be on the team technically participating. And then after that, I'll probably be helping.
Okay. So here's the thing. This is you're enrolling what, September 1st? Is that the first day of class?
The first day of class is September 1st.
So you're
but
enrolling
the teams,
now.
Right, we're enrolling now. We have been enrolling. We are enrolling. All of our classes are online, and we're going to be adding more classes as we go. We're going to add family activities, because that was another part of it, is that it's also a family ministry center. So we'll have family game nights, family movie nights. The whole idea is to bring families back together. Like I said, I really valued the way that Murfreesboro was family oriented, community focused, and we looked for a place like that, and I feel like it's probably a cultural shift in general, but I think Tullahoma is the perfect place to bring that back, to bring that community.
I went to college in Murfreesboro more than 20 years ago, and yeah, it is notably different than the little college town that I went to.
Very
so I know what you're
fast-paced.
talking about. Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, for the enrolling part of it, I know we got to talk about the robotics just a little bit, but for all these other things that you're talking about, are they all nighttime activities, or is this part of the homeschooling program that you're also involved daytime?
It's both. So we have classes during the day for the homeschoolers, and we have classes in the afternoon for the after-school kids.
Okay.
And we have theater, we have art, we have, like I mentioned, homesteading, organic gardening, in addition to the engineering and robotics. We have dance classes. And the focus on our dance classes is less competitive, less recital-based, more of a personal dance. Like for the younger kids, it's going to be about learning to dance, and then
Right.
for the older children, it'll be about learning to perform. So they will actually go out into the community to nursing homes,
Yeah.
children's hospitals, places where they're shut in, that it would bring joy to them to see these dancers, and so that will be their purpose.
And we talk an awful lot about the importance of STEM and STEAM. And the A in STEAM is the arts. It gets lost in a lot of
Right.
other places. There's a lot of importance on engineering, and it is important. But at science and technology and math, all of that is very important, but so are the arts. So I always love to hear when that is sewn up into the overall program as well. That's really great. So how do people find you? You mentioned a website. Are there other contact ways that they can find you through that website?
My phone number and email are both on there, so they
Okay.
can go through the website, they can sign up for our newsletter, they can contact me via email or by just giving me a call.
So what are the other eligibility requirements that if they're now interested in calling you, we've said they can be in regular school, they can do after school programs. Are there age limitations?
There isn't. We start from kindergarten and go all the way through 12th grade because
Wow.
of my experience teaching from kindergarten through now 12th grade.
Right.
We are able to do that. My daughter, she's involved in dance and art, so we're bringing that part. He's doing science and engineering. You mentioned whether or not he taught. He actually will be teaching some of the younger classes, the K through third class, and
Oh,
he
nice.
has done that in the past. He was one of our teachers at the Robotics Center.
Very nice. Okay. So then I guess the other thing I think we want to tell people is where you are, and maybe talk a little bit about the historic house that is the center of this new gathering place.
Right. So yes, I mean it's a complete part of the vision, I think, for us to have found this house. We were originally looking for like an office building, a flex space type space. That's what we were used to in Murfreesboro, but this place just kind of landed in my lap, and it is a historic home that's on Northeast Atlantic Street, 408 Northeast Atlantic Street, and we purchased it, and we are now in the process of renovating and getting it spruced up, bring it back to life. It's perfect for what we want to do because it is a home setting. It's an old home. And so just taking us back to a time when people gathered, when families gathered together, when children gathered together, when people learned together and lived together. And I think that's just perfect with the gathering place.
Okay. Blake, what would you like to add?
I would just say, if you're really interested in any of the things we've talked about, to go to the website, look into some of the classes, and yeah.
So you've been homeschooled your entire life.
Yes.
I mean, there's something special about that to you, I'm assuming. Have you ever thought, oh, gee, I wish I'd gone to regular school, or like, this is fabulous, I get to do all of these other things?
Yeah, I really enjoy homeschooling. The only downside really is that you don't get to see your friends quite as much, but I mean, I still see my friends regularly with classes and just fun things we do, so I would say there's definitely more upsides.
Wonderful. Okay, well, is there anything else I haven't thought to ask you that we should really let people know?
I would say just reach out. Just reach out. Any questions, any concerns, anything. I mean, we're just a real flexible place. I mean, we're here for families. We're here for the community. So if someone says, oh, I wish there was a class like this, or I wish this was 8 weeks instead of 16 weeks, or oh, I wish it was on Wednesday instead of Thursday, we're open to all the feedback. We're just getting started. We have lots of plans, lots of new things to add, and the more feedback we get from the community, the better to help us build the right program.
Now, from program building, we move on to world building, as reviewer Jason Singleton returns to the podcast to discuss another fantasy novel, one that would become the start of a trilogy. Joe Abercrombie's first published novel, The Blade Itself, became the start of the First Law trilogy. It's a gritty, dark fantasy that predates the Game of Thrones, and it's been described as a brilliant, complex world with morally gray characters and an unpredictable plot. Now, the last time Jason was here, we talked about the Mistborn series by Brandon Sanderson, but The Blade Itself does not present a similar world oppressed by a dark lord. In fact, it pokes a little fun at the literary devices readers have come to expect from fantasy.
This book plays off of all those traditional fantasy tropes. So, yes, it's a little slower moving, It's much more about character development than it is necessarily like world building. So like a lot of the things that you're traditionally used to in a fantasy novel is like this big world and like there's all this magic and there's all this stuff. And it's like the emphasis isn't on that, you know.
Yeah.
So this I think might appeal to some of those readers who aren't traditionally fantasy novel readers, that like they really like character development, they like getting, you know, like seeing flaws, asking the big questions like, can people change? And, you know, how often is that true or how often is that real, you know? And so that's really what this book is like. And so it plays off a lot of those tropes. So if you read a bunch of fantasy novels, you know, you're used to like, there's a wizard and there's just like this famous barbarian type and there's this smug, stuck up, snooty nobleman type deal, you know?
Right, yeah,
These same tropes that you see over and over again. And so all those same character types, there's in this one, there's like an inquisitor, you know, that's like he's a jerk and he works for the church and he's a torturer kind of deal. And so you see these a lot. You stumble across these tropes in fantasy novels a lot. And what I like about The Blade itself and this series is that he peels back those tropes, and it come to find out these characters aren't who you thought they were, or like he likes to play on the difference between what's your reputation and what's reality.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so how like these heroes, are they actually heroes, or are they just like, did they just kind of stumble into this, or are they just as broken and misunderstood as the rest of us, and their reputation is sort of like outrun, you know, what they've actually done, you know, so to speak. And in both directions, both like for the good and for the bad. So like there's characters that's like, this guy's, you know, hysterically known for being this like bloody barbarian. He's like, this guy's just like awful and evil, and then you get to know the character like, oh, that's not exactly how he is. I understand how he got this reputation, but that's not necessarily who he is. And then, or who he's trying not to be. Let's put it that way. He's trying hard to not be this thing he's become known for, and it's like not exactly working out for him, you know.
So, I heard a review of this book because I have not read it myself.
Okay.
So, I heard a review where another big fantasy fan said, you know, I got to about 60% into the book thinking this might be a do not finish for me because I kept waiting for something to happen, and I didn't really relate to this one character. And he said, I finally related to the character in the final pages.
Wow.
Now, you did say this is a series, so is there some character building, introduction, table setting to this being the first of a series?
Yeah, the whole book is really about character development. I mean, so again, back to the trope conversation, you know, historically or traditionally in a fantasy setting, like there's a Dark Lord. So like we reviewed Mistborn last time.
Right.
You know, you're in this post-apocalyptic world, there's a Dark Lord, it's very Lord of the Ringsy. Where is that? It's like missing. It's noticeably missing. You're like, where's the Dark Lord? Where's this thing? Where's the Frodo journey I'm supposed to be going on? And it is there, but it's not like that.
Yeah.
You know, they've like, I don't know if I can swear, but they've bastardized that version. You know, they've taken like this group with the one ring, and it's not quite like that. They've kind of like, again, they're like kind of peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and be like, well, this wasn't exactly what you thought it was, is it? But from the outside perspective, everyone else, it does. It looks like the Lord of the Rings, and so it's like he's playing off that.
Okay.
But it's definitely like, when you read the first book, it's like a closing to Act 1. It feels like it's Act 1 of a much bigger book.
Okay, that's what I
Really.
was wondering, if
Yeah.
it took all that, because you've got to, you know, I like Game of Thrones. Now, I have not read those books either. I've watched the television show, and the same thing with the follow-up television shows. And there's always that disappointment sort of with the first season, because there's so much table setting to do. But then when you get to season 2 and you know all the backstory and you can understand all the politics, you're glad all that happened.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot less world building, and I think a lot of fantasy novels, or a lot of fantasy readers want that. They want to get lost in this new world they've never heard of. But instead, this is all character. And like, some people find character development tedious. They're like, why do I need to know this?
Yeah.
Why do I care what this guy's... I mean, you do want people's background, but there's like a lot of it. He goes real deep, because he's like peeling back the layers on these tropes we've all developed for ourselves. And so I think if you go into it with eyes wide open and know that's what he's trying to accomplish, you can appreciate it more. I'm a big fan of audiobooks. And the guy who narrates this book, Stephen Pacey, is incredible. That guy man, I mean, I talked to you last time about Michael Kramer and Kate Reading. And they have a really good dynamic because even though they have different last names, they're married. They're a couple. And then they're playing some Paramore characters in their stories. And so I love those guys. I think those guys will always be a special place in my heart, probably number one always. But Stephen Pacey does such a great job with his reading. And like his interpretation of what Joe's putting on the page, that like reading this book and listening to this book, they're like two separate books.
Yeah. See, I'm listening to a book now, not fantasy. The Calamity Club is the one I'm reading and listening to alternate. And my gosh, she does exactly the same thing. And the accents are part of her character development. And I would never, ever get the same character reading off the page that I'm getting from the reader who's presenting it to my ear. And it's lovely. And same thing, she's got so many characters she's juggling, and you can tell them apart. Like when Jim Dale did the Harry Potter books. I'm always amazed when people can be consistent with that large cast of characters and be recognizable every time that new character comes back on.
I don't know how they do it. How do you do it from one book to the next? That's the craziest thing. It's like, how do you remember? Like, you just go back and listen to yourself and be like, yeah, I can mimic that again. You know, those guys are so incredibly talented, but he just does such a great job of like this grim reality you're having to come to grips with, like human nature, greed, pride. You know, those are the enemies of this book. You know, it's these things. It's like, you know, this hubris that all these guys have. That's where you know, there's not like some dark lord. You know, they're kind of like fighting with themselves all the time. And then he because Joe is making fun of it, and he does such a great job reading. You're like, oh, I kind of get the punchline now. Whereas when I'm just reading, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so grim that you just said. But he's saying it from like almost like an irony standpoint, and he does such a good job of just making it like of getting those punchlines in there. It's like, I needed that. This is getting a little too dark for me for a moment there. So,
author Joe Abercrombie just celebrated the 20th anniversary of that debut novel. His newest book, The Devils, was named Book of the Month by Barnes & Noble when the paperback was released in May. And its sequel, Heretics, is set to be released next May. Between now and then, let's take a look at what's happening. The Tullahoma Wildcats football team plays their first home game on Friday, August 28th, and you can join TUA and First Vision Bank on the day before the game to meet the players and cheer them on. The annual tailgate party starts at 3:30 on Thursday, August 27th at Fraser McEwen Park. Bringing the kids straight from school, the first 200 or so can pick up a free t-shirt and have it signed by the team. If football isn't your thing, visit Shelbyville on the 28th for the 4th Friday Fest on the Square. South Main Street will be closed for children's activities. Uptown businesses will stay open late. The Celebration City Car Club will host its cruise-in around the courthouse, and Chase Clanton will provide the live music on the Square. Heads up, though, that's Celebration Weekend in Shelbyville. The Fit Beyond 4th Annual Color Run and 5K is set for Saturday, August 29th. Whether you are an experienced runner or you just want to get out for a walk with your four-legged friend, all you have to do is register online at runsignup.com. The race begins promptly at 7:30 that morning, and awards will be given out for the first 3 finishers, male and female. Race packets will be available Friday the 28th at Fit Beyond Therapy, or at 6 a.m. on the day of the race. Online registration is now open for the Tullahoma Sunrise Rotary Club's first disc golf tournament. On-site registration begins at 8 a.m. on the day of the tournament at the Sunrise Rotary Disc Golf Course behind East Middle School. The one-round singles tournament begins at 9:15 after a quick players meeting. The cost to enter is $30, and mulligans will be available for purchase at check-in. Register online at discgolfscene.com. And that's what's happening. Next week on the podcast, I'll be talking to the tournament director for that Sunrise Rotary fundraising event. If you've got a story or an event that you'd like to share on the podcast, call and leave me a message at 571-7186 or email news@lighttube.net. I'll be back soon with more of what makes Tullahoma tick. Until then, you can listen to Talking Tullahoma on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. New episodes drop on Thursdays. Please like and subscribe. For the video version, follow us on YouTube. Just search for TUA LightTube. I'm Kelly Lepchinsky. Catch you next week.